also really think that we should start recording on already talking as well, rather than...
You mean like what we just did?
Like what I just did just then, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like when podcasts start and you're like, fuck, what did I miss?
Yeah, but it's actually just started.
No, we were talking for hours before.
Oh, yeah. Or like when like someone like Rogan or someone does it and they come on and they're like just finishing up laughing. He's like just finishing up laughing and he's like, and we're live. And you're like, wait, what? Fuck you, what was funny? Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, have you checked out Daniel Sloss yet?
No.
You're such a disappointment.
Did you listen to that podcast I shared you the link to you for?
I gotta go.
Yeah. No, I haven't checked him out yet. Who is he? Like what?
He's a comedian.
Is he? Yeah, I've never even heard of him until you mentioned him.
But he's very good, and he's got a special on Netflix, and it's crazy. Now there's two of them. So before we were getting attacked by flesh-eating bugs.
Yeah.
I don't know why we continue to do this outside.
Yeah, this is our second outside podcast, and
it's hot.
It's hot, and I think we might regret it again, like we did last time.
Yeah, like I'm sweating like a pig.
Pigs don't sweat.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Then why do they say sweating like a pig?
I don't know. Don't they say sweating like a stuck pig? Is that the saying?
What's a stuck pig?
A pig that's just been stuck.
Where?
With a knife.
Ah, not stuck somewhere.
Not stuck somewhere, just been stuck with a knife.
Huh.
Also, this is the first time we're using these mics
Yeah.
on my phone, and I'm just making sure that it's working. I'm sure it's working.
Are you 100% sure?
Nope.
If you unplug these earphones from here,
I should be able to tell.
and we plug them into... this seems like a really dumb thing to do on the podcast, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so am I.
Plug them in and we listen and we can see whether it's working.
Well, why don't you tell everyone what we're drinking today and why?
Okay, so today we are drinking Carlton Zero. It is a non-alcoholic beer because if you haven't noticed, in the last couple of episodes, drinking has become a problem for us both. In that we both have major competitions coming up. Oftentimes when we record this podcast, it is during the middle of the day or early in the morning.
I'm sure it's working.
So it's really hard for us to continue to drink actual beers and get through the rest of our days. Like, I've got to go to work after this. And I don't want to be under the influence. I want to be a good Andy, not a bad Andy. A bandy. Anyway, so what we're drinking is Carlton Zero, which is 100% Carlton, 0% alcohol, if you can read that. It has 118 kilojoules of energy, 0.2 grams of protein, so we're still getting gains in, and 7 grams of carbohydrates.
I would like to thank James Sarzano, who told me that this is, although a non-alcoholic beer, still a pretty good tasting beer.
Really?
According to him. He said it's pretty close to Carlton.
Okay.
Don't.
Sorry, I almost forgot to cheers you again.
Cheers.
But cheers, yeah. Brewed.
It does. It tastes like a Carlton. A darker Carlton.
Oh yeah, you could convince me that this was alcoholic.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh wow.
You know, this would be a really good test. God, I feel like this is going to be an interesting conversation, so I hope that's working. Anyway, it would be interesting to see whether if after our podcast or our chat a couple of weeks ago about psychosocial effects of alcohol, and whether if the fact that you think alcohol is making an effect on your lifestyle causes it to have an effect on your lifestyle, whether if you went away from drinking alcoholic beer for a little while and drank non-alcoholic beer, if you'd still see the same effects, and if you did, it would be this pretty much proof that it's a psychosocial thing.
Or some sort of placebo.
Some sort of placebo effect.
Yeah.
Because I don't think after years of drinking beer, I don't think the fact that you know it's not alcoholic when it tastes like alcohol going in your mouth, I think it's still going to have the same effects.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, if you guys haven't listened to that episode,
Which you should have.
we're like, there are certain effects that are like psychosocially conditioned into like every one of us. We're told that drinking is bad, blah, 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 blah. And that can then, like, you take that, you internalize that and use that in your decision making or in your behavior and activities.
Even without realizing that you're doing so.
Exactly. And for us, we were talking about that in the case of beers, because Steve thinks that he's less productive when he drinks beer.
I'm definitely less productive when I drink beer. I'm putting that in flight mode.
Does that stop the podcast though?
No.
Oh, good. Yeah. So that was the go of that conversation.
Yeah. Yes. Bit like when you go out. Although, do you think it's more of a habit thing? I was going to say when you go out and you feel the instant need to have a beer, is that just a habit thing because you go out, or because you've been bred to believe that people have a beer when they go out?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. If I went out and this was available to buy on, like, I don't know, tap,
On tap,
or
yeah.
like even just bottles, I would drink this in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Because one of my big things when I go out and I'm deso or just not drinking is, like, I like to just have something in my hand to drink, and I don't want to drink Coke, and I don't want to drink like anything else.
Why don't you want to drink Coke?
I don't know. I don't like Coke that much, but I like beer.
Yeah, interesting. You actually said to me the other day that you're a little bit over beer. What's with that? Is that just because we're drinking so much, or? Or is that your way of saying I want to drink gin instead?
Oh yeah, I would like to drink gin.
You'd like to drink gin. I have a really nice bottle of Hendrix at home if you wanted to try that on one of the podcasts.
Yeah, I will do that. I like gin. I really like gin.
Do you just drink it with tonic and lime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The brewery, not the brewery, the RSL near our place.
Yeah.
They're having like gin toba, so we've been going there heaps and having like the jugs of gin.
Wow. How much is a jug of gin?
Like $20.
That's all right.
And it's like 5 glasses, maybe more, like 7 glasses in a jar, which is quite nice.
I have a question for you. I was just thinking about it. So when I was setting up these mics, the little tags that they have on them are that real shitty plastic that doesn't tear. Like, you can't really tear. They weren't paper tags.
Yeah.
And I luckily had a pocket knife in my car because I didn't have scissors. What emergency tools do you have in your car that, like, you may need? Like, do you keep anything in your car that you're like, oh, just in case? Outside of obviously like a jack and spanners.
Yeah, I have a pocket knife.
Do you?
I have a one of those MagSafe torches, the big ones. They are good for hitting people with.
Yep.
Mine is not for hitting people with. Or is it?
Yeah, it depends if someone annoys you or not.
I've got one of those, but then I've always got my toolbox and stuff in the car anyway. My drill
For work, yeah.
For emergency drilling.
Putting holes in people's tyres.
My wallet, some screws, first aid kit. Do you have a first aid kit?
I don't have a first aid kit. Actually, yes, I do. I have the one that the car came with.
Yep.
Yeah, I do have that in there.
I don't have a fire hydrant. I know some people have that in their car. I don't have any cones.
When you say fire hydrant, do you mean fire extinguisher?
Fire extinguisher.
Because you're doing real well to have a fire hydrant hooked up in your car.
Yeah, some people
Where are you
do.
storing all that water?
Sorry, I meant fire extinguisher. I'm sorry, it's the beer, it's getting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Do you think if you drank enough of them, you'd start to feel drunk, even though there's no alcohol in them?
Well, I'm pretty sure there's like... No, it says there's zero
there's
alcohol.
zero alcohol in them.
I thought there might be like 0.00... Like, you know when you get like CBD or something and it's like 0.003% THC?
No, I don't do drugs.
Okay, CBD is not a drug.
What do you think? Do you think that is like CBD and stuff getting easier to get into the country? Is that like a step towards the legalization of marijuana itself?
Well, I think the
And more
decriminalisation that
hemp
happened
products.
in Canberra is
Yeah,
probably the
that
biggest
was recent.
thing. Yeah.
Actually, Mike Watts just told me about that the other day. That's interesting. I didn't even hear about that. That only happened recently, hey?
Yeah. So I think that's probably the biggest indication that things are changing for the better.
Especially happening in the capital.
Yeah. And I think things will spread out from there. Because Canberra's always been like the place where rules are a little bit looser. You know, you could always have like fireworks.
Despite being where Parliament is.
Yeah. Murder was a little bit, more lenient over there.
Fuck. Yeah, a little bit. I have a story for you. So on my way here, I was driving up Windsor Road.
Yep.
And out of one of the slip lanes coming from one of the side streets, this young girl just pulled out in front of me, young-ish, like she wasn't on her P's, but pulled out in front of me, cut me off. I had to get on the brakes hard and swerve around her into the other lane. And then I
Are you asking me if murder is okay in
no.
Because my answer is no.
No, I was going to ask whether if... so when she pulled out, and then I went to have a look at her, and I looked at her number plate briefly, and it was a custom number plate Loz with then a couple of numbers afterwards, but it was custom pink number plate, pink
What are
backing,
the numbers?
white, I don't know how to say it. Pink background, white lettering, Loz, so it's a nickname on there in a number plate. Now, bad driving happens to me regularly on the road.
Yeah, it usually...
with people that
only
have number
happens-
plates like that. Now, my question is, does having that number plate make you a bad driver, or do only bad drivers get that number plate?
Like custom number plates?
Custom number plates.
Like coloured or custom?
Like
names?
coloured, your name on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people that get custom number plates have a higher amount of disposable income and clearly a higher amount of whimsy. So maybe they're just not, paying as much attention on the road because they're too busy texting or putting on makeup.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never put that, because I drive a lot for work. And I've never put that together.
Because all too often someone will cut in front of me and they'll have a named number plate.
But you drive around the hills a lot.
Yes.
So I could almost argue that people in the hills are just bad drivers.
That's true. I was also in LA a couple of weeks ago, and I can say everyone in LA is a horrible driver.
Really?
Yeah, shocking. I had an Uber ride over there where the Uber driver stopped to get fuel halfway through our trip.
What?
Yeah.
That seems...
Wrong.
Yeah?
Stopped to get fuel halfway through our trip, didn't speak a word of English, and then had an accident.
What?
While we were driving. So while we were driving, we got to a right-hand turn, and it was one of those right-hand turns where he definitely should have seen there was no traffic coming and just merged out of the slip lane
Yeah.
as he went. Oh wait, right-hand turn? Yeah, right-hand turn in the States. And just merged straight out onto the road. And there was a motorcyclist behind him that assumed that's what he was going to do and was just carrying a little bit of speed, and then the guy just got on his brakes hard to check, and the motorcyclist just run straight up his ass.
I mean, that's still the motorcyclist's fault.
Yes, it is still the motorcyclist's fault. Yes, it is. However, it's not.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Like, legally, it's definitely his fault. However, because it's trailing too close behind.
In America, I'm sure all the states, the road rules are slightly different, but are you allowed to take that right turn at any time, even if there's a red light, as long as you look?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in Australia, that's not the case. You can't
Not
just
everywhere.
take a left. But in Canada, you can take a right.
But in Australia, you can't, because it would be the equivalent of like that slip lane where you're coming out and there's no red light, so as long as you just look before turning left.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got 300 meters worth of vision, you can
merge into it.
You can merge into it fairly well.
Without really stopping. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, he's probably not the best driver. Maybe he's just bad at it.
Yeah, maybe. Or a pet peeve of mine is...
I love when you have pet peeves.
Yeah, this is a pet peeve of mine. Only because it happened to me the other day again. I think people wrong me on the road too often. Maybe I'm the bad driver. I was driving in the left-hand lane and the merging lane was coming in off another road on the freeway or the motorway, whatever it was. And people that don't carry their speed into the lane, so they're coming in and then it goes from their 60 zone that they were on, they turn off the road, it goes to an 80, then 100 zone, and then you can merge into traffic.
Yep.
And you're supposed to merge into traffic at speed. That's why it's there, so that the traffic doesn't have to slow down for you. Anyway, there's these people that, if they were carrying their speed, would have been more than fine to get in front of me, But instead, I've had to get on my brakes a little bit to try and give them more room, but then they continue to get on their brakes. So then I've slowed down to 20 k's an hour on the highway so that they can get in front of me.
Yeah.
So that they didn't have to come to a dead stop at the end of the merging lane or merge into the side of me.
Yeah, well, you just let them merge into the side of you. That's what I would do.
Would you?
Yeah, I mean, when you drive a van, one, you can't see these things because your vision is limited.
Yeah.
And
is that
two,
because you've got limited vision though, or because the car has limited vision?
Because the car has limited vision.
Okay.
I mean, all you have is side mirrors,
so
you can't really see that.
That's true.
And
it's
I
like
think
driving
people,
with a big
people do drive a little bit more carefully around like utility vehicles.
Yes, I agree.
Compared to like regular cars.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think a van carries that intimidation factor on the road?
My van doesn't look very intimidating. But who knows? If you're like a little two-seater Fiat with the license plate laws on it, maybe you look at that and you're like, oh no, that scary van driver might
scratch Dad's car,
kidnap me.
Yeah.
Do you think that van drivers deserve that kind of
stigmatism?
Yeah. As a long-time van driver, I'm offended.
You're also a long-term creep, though.
Every time someone's like, "You drive a van? What are you, a pedophile?" I'm like, "No."
Legally, no.
Yeah, I didn't know how to make that into a joke that made me come out the other end.
Yeah. There was no way that made you okay in that joke. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think they deserve it, but unfortunately, it's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I think there's a lot of those things that people probably don't deserve. For example, custom number plates. I'm sure they're not all horrible drivers, but
they don't deserve it, or they don't.
Just because you have a custom number plate doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should think that you're a horrible driver, but unfortunately we do, because most of you are.
True, and also like custom number plates are expensive, right? Like you have to pay a certain amount every year to keep them. Wouldn't it be better off to get a better car?
Yeah. Well.
Or a spoiler? Like if you want to look like a dickhead, you might as well just do that.
A spoiler on your Rexy.
No, a spoiler on your front wheel drive.
Yeah. Fuck.
Do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree at all. But also the particular type that I'm talking about is probably Daddy bought the car for her and put the number plates on there for her.
Oh, that's cute. Actually, it could be a present. You could have custom number plates as a present.
If anyone ever got me custom number plates as a present, I'd think they were trying to say something.
Yeah, someone please buy Steve
custom number plates.
Damn it. Yeah, you could do it. The custom number plates, PHTEVE. Steve. That's what he wants.
Steve.
As his custom number plate.
I'm going to have that other beer.
Yeah, you go for it. But this was very nice. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about what it tastes like.
I feel like I've seen a couple of beer pages comment on our Instagram posts lately.
Really?
Or,
saying that we have no idea what we're talking about?
No. Or follow us and just be like, hey, if you like beer, you should check out our page. Da-da-da-da-da. And then I look at that page and I'm like, you guys actually know what you're talking about. Maybe we have no right to be doing this.
It doesn't matter. We're not here to talk about
beer.
We're here to just talk and drink beer.
Ah, get out.
What up? An ant?
I think there's an ant in my beer. Unless I got him. No, I got him.
You're just going to have to drink it either way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to waste a beer.
Smart move. Let's comment on our surroundings. We never even introduced the podcast this time.
No, we didn't.
It's 20 minutes in.
Okay, well...
Hey guys, welcome to the Uneducated Opinions podcast. I am your Andy, co-host Andy.
Yep.
And this is your Steve.
I'm your Steve. Yep. This is episode number 8.
Yep. This is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything, and most of the time we don't know what we're talking about.
And we try and have a beer while we're doing it.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. I do feel like we should try and get a pub situation going one day where we are actually having a schooner.
I would love that. I just would hate to be always outside like this. I don't think I want to do another outdoor podcast.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort.
And it's hot.
It's really hot.
It's sweaty.
I'm very uncomfortable.
You haven't commented on my shirt. Oh, you don't know sport. That's why you haven't commented on my shirt.
Yeah, what is it?
Never mind. It's Kawhi Leonard's shirt.
I don't know who that is.
See?
Are you going to tell me?
He's a basketball player.
Is he a good one?
Mm-hmm.
Like on the same par as Jordan Peterson,
Sorry?
the basketball player? The one that played for the Chicago Reds or whatever it's called. No?
I can't tell if you're serious or not. No, not on the same level. No, not even close.
Not even close to Michael Jordan.
Not even close to Michael
king.
Jordan, no.
Actually, do you think Michael Jordan is better than...
LeBron?
Yeah. Or is this like another Fraser-Rich Froning debate that will only end in tears for Fraser?
It's like another Farlap McIvy diva.
Are they people?
Fuck.
I'm just kidding. I know that they are horses. I'm not dumb.
Also, do you like the races?
I'm okay with it. I've never been, and I probably won't go. That's the one where you have to dress up for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like dressing up. I would go. You dress up and get drunk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah. You should
Get
do it.
behind that.
We should get Shannon and stuff around it and go one day.
Okay.
I'm also very excited for Tom Segura.
Yes, I'm very excited. I was watching Tom Segura stuff last night. He is very, 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 very funny.
Yeah, very funny. Who's your favourite comedian?
Probably, you'd be hard pressed to go past Segura.
Segura?
Maybe Daniel Sloss is really good. I'd watch him live.
Would you watch many comedians live?
I like Netflix. I just like watching things at home. It's so comfortable and easy to watch.
Why?
Have you watched? I don't know. It's just like.
Do you not
comfort
think
of
the
your own
atmosphere makes the show better?
Yeah, that's what I heard. But I went and watched Bert Kreischer, and I really liked it. He was very funny, but it was a lot of effort to go out into the city. Maybe it's because we don't live close.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, it takes us like an hour and a half to get into the city.
Do you think you could convince Tom Segura to come and do a show at Windsor RSL?
I think I could. Actually, Arj Barker is doing a show at Windsor RSL.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's funny too.
So maybe we go to that.
He's not that level of funny, but he's funny.
But he's at Windsor RSL. That seems like it'd be pretty easy to
Get to?
get
from?
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah? When's he doing that?
I don't know. I have to check.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Have you watched The Joker yet?
No.
I watched it the other day.
How was it?
I did not think it was as cracked up as everyone else thought it was. People have been like, it's amazing.
You didn't think it was as cracked up
I didn't think it was as good as everyone else.
yeah.
It wasn't
All it's cracked up to be.
all as cracked up to
Yeah.
be. It's the words. They're not working today.
Yeah.
I think it's actually the heat. Because last time we did an outdoor podcast, I had the same problem.
I'm feeling much less distracted than last time we did an outdoor podcast.
Really,
though.
I feel like I'm more distracted. There are a lot of cars over there in my head because we're in the middle of the forest again and there are no cars here.
Andy's eaten some psychedelics today.
There are overhead power lines causing us many forms of radiation and cancer.
Do you think that, not from personal experience obviously, but from listening to other people talk about it, do you think that there would be any real benefit to microdosing psychedelic drugs?
Oh, I thought you were going to say microdosing electricity.
No.
Yeah, there'd probably definitely...
Because we've both listened to hundreds of podcasts about it.
Yeah, I think there's huge benefit in that. And what's really cool is that John Hopkins have officially launched their research now. It's fully funded. So congratulations to them. For psychedelic research into treatment of like PTSD and schizophrenia, forms of drug addiction and all that. And that's thanks to a bunch of people, including like Tim Ferriss and all of those guys.
Mm.
So big names involved, and I think that research that comes out of Johns Hopkins will be instrumental in changing the perception of psychedelics in the Western world.
This is a very educated answer.
Well, when you talk about things like this that have a large amount of
Impact?
not impact, just like stigma and like social disgust around them, I think you have to speak like that. I don't think you can just be like, oh yeah, nah, yeah.
That's fair enough. You're not a very bogan talker in general, though, anyway.
Oh yeah.
You're always pretty calculated about your answers to most questions.
Not all the time. Sometimes I do put my foot in my mouth, and I've done that a lot with you. Mostly around you, I do that.
I think that's because I rub off on people, because I put my foot in my mouth a lot.
So I just do it too.
Yeah, you just do it as well.
I really like that. This was a really good beer.
Yeah, it's going down pretty well. Although now that it's warm, it's going down less well.
Yeah, mine wasn't the best when it was warm. Anyway, back to the Joker.
Yes.
Oh wait, did you have any other questions about psych? What do you think about the psychedelics? Do you think there's massive benefits in microdosing? So the reason that you would microdose is you don't have the crazy psychoactive effects of.
Yes.
that
But you
just
potentially
have with
unlock that creative side of your mind a little bit, or like anxiety release and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yes. I think that it would be a good thing, yeah.
Yeah. How so?
Well, from listening to people talk about it, there's a lot of people that rave about how much it helps them just from day-to-day stuff, people in the States and that sort of thing with depression or with like mental health issues, like anxiety, panic attacks, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I have heard people say that it helps them with like motivation levels as well.
I think if you were to try it for the first time, you would want to do it under the
Guidance of a shaman.
guidance of a trained professional. Whether that is a shaman, if you're taking some sort of like ancient herb or drug, like ayahuasca or something like that.
What is ayahuasca?
I think it's just like a root.
Spirit.
It's like a tea. They make it into a tea that you drink. And there's a few of those things around. Whereas if you're going to have something chemically derived, like acid, then definitely you just want to be in a safe space with someone who's a trained professional as well. Yeah, I definitely don't think that you should do those things randomly alone at a party. That's
where the stigma comes from.
That's where the stigma comes from. These things are medicines, they're not toys. Is that fair to say?
Okay, so I think that's actually not bad. I obviously haven't seen the movie, but not a bad point to move on to talking about the Joker, because I've had some people say to me that the reason why that movie has been so raved about recently is because it seems to be talking about an issue that seems to be over talked about or really talked about with mental health in society at the moment.
Yep.
And I think that whether rightly or wrongly, it's hitting home for some people, and that's why it's gone so big. Or is it the other side of the coin where you're saying you didn't really think it was all it was cracked up to be? Is the whole reason why it was cracked up just because everyone feels like they have to crack it up because of what it's about?
Yeah, I think that segue is brilliant, because that just brought to my head like something that's really, really important. And that is, in the medical world, we have had some ridiculous leaps forward in technology and efficacy of medication, right?
Yeah.
The one field of medicine that has not really done anything for like the last 20, 30 years even is probably psychology. Like, there've been no major new breakthroughs. There've been nothing. And I do think that these studies into psilocybin and all these other psychedelics is the biggest...
Is going to be the next breakthrough, maybe.
Is where the biggest breakthroughs are going to be.
Yeah.
In treating any sort of...
Well, I would have thought even just I know it's not psychoactive necessarily in the way that most people use it, but with the breakthroughs that they had with marijuana for things like Parkinson's and even just pain relief and that sort of thing, would have opened up the door for more research into other things. And I think maybe it's taken a little bit longer to go down that pathway than I thought it would.
Yeah, and you're probably right. I mean, but a lot of the benefits to marijuana seem to be like physiological, not so much the psych.
Is inflammation decrease really a thing?
I
with
think
marijuana?
so.
I lied. Some of those bugs do bite.
I can't be certain. I don't really know. Everything I say today is all just conjecture. Like, no idea.
Things you've heard from other people.
Things I've heard from other people. I'm basically just like a mimic. I'm like a reflection. People just say things and I listen and then I repeat them back and try to sound smart doing it. But anyway, to the Joker, your point is like very true in that like it shows a man that is not only downtrodden by society, but he's just not getting the help that he needs out of the social network that is his society around him, right?
Yep.
And that's, I guess, how a lot of people with mental illness feel, is that they can't, one, ask for help, and two, they can't get it, even if they did. This is one point in the movie where, minor spoilers, this is in the trailer, where the doctor's looking through his workbook. She's like, what is this? Like, do you often have thoughts like this? And then he's like, all I have are negative thoughts, or all I have are bad thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true of like a lot of people, is that they don't get the help that they need or can get. And that's the commentary that the film is making to an extent. Now, my biggest problem with the film is that commentary has been made over and over again in the past. It's not like, this is not a new concept. Like, if you've ever watched Taxi Driver, which Robert De Niro, who's in this, like, the movies are exactly the same.
Exactly?
Pretty much. Have you watched Taxi Driver?
Yeah, bits and pieces. I haven't watched the whole thing.
Yeah, like, if you guys haven't watched Taxi Driver, he's a Vietnam vet. I mean, not saying that the Joker is, but like, he's a guy who has some psychological damage, and throughout the film he loses his touch on reality, but he also loses faith in the society around him. He wants to change it. He wants to change it in such a visceral way that he ends up committing heinous crimes, and by the end of the movie you don't know whether what he's doing and the reactions of others around him are coming from him, or whether they're coming from the people. You don't know whether it's true or it's just his imagination. And that's basically what the Joker is. And then I guess the other comparison a lot of people make is probably to Robert De Niro's other movie with Martin Scorsese, which is King of Comedy.
I haven't seen that one.
Which is like, again, very similar. You have an aspiring comedian who is obsessed with his mentor, which is funny because like in King of Comedy, Robert De Niro plays that part. In The Joker, Robert De Niro plays the mentor. Yeah. And that, progresses a series of events. So I think if you were going to watch The Joker, you should watch those two movies first, because they're a lot better. They're from like the 70s and 80s, but they're just like, they're the originals. Yeah. And this is not a cheap knockoff. It's beautiful. It's got like wonderful imagery. The score is amazing. The acting is really good, but it's just like, there's no soul to it. It's just carbon copying
another
film. And that's how I feel about it. it sucks that I just went on that rant and you haven't watched it, so you don't know what I'm talking
No,
about.
I don't know what you're talking about. But I will go and watch it.
I'm glad I got that out of my system, though.
Yeah, has that been bugging you?
Yeah, I've wanted to talk about that for a long time, since I watched it on Sunday. So, like, a couple of days.
For a long time. Yeah, fair enough. That's fair enough. Do you think that having it broadcasted in a movie so as big as that now in like today's time, where maybe film is going to have a little bit more impact, is a good thing?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, yeah, I guess if it's bringing... But what is the purpose of a film, or this film? Is it to make $1 million? Well, hopefully it makes more than that. But is it to make $1 million? Is it to show off your artwork? Or is it to speak about a subject that you think society is neglecting? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it to preach a message? If it's to preach a message, I don't think this film does that. I don't think that it's glorifying violence, like a lot of people have said. But I don't think it's like some deep introspection into society or whatever.
But also, at what point is a movie a movie?
Yeah, that's true too. I think as long as it goes past 15 seconds and it's no longer a vine, it's a movie.
But do you think that...
7 seconds, sorry.
Yeah, 7 seconds. Do you think that directors and producers are often or ever really thinking about an effect that their movie is hopefully going to have on society, or are they putting out a movie that's going to make them money and, like you said, show off their art form?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Have you...
And do you think if for this movie, for example, do you think that there was much thought process into, this is going to hit home for a lot of people, so it's a good subject to talk about or to showcase, rather than necessarily they thought the plot was good and that's the movie they went to, and it just so happened that it was a point that was relevant?
Yeah, could be. Could also just be like the guy that wrote it and directed it or whatever could have just seen the script and been like, fuck yeah, that seems like fun. Let's try and make a Joker movie. And then Joaquin looked at the script and was like, oh yeah, that looks like something I'd like to do. And he was like...
Was he as good as everyone said he was?
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor, and he did a really good job in this movie. But it's just like the movie feels shallow to me. I think there's a lot left on the table. Have you seen The Game Changers on Netflix?
Yes.
Let's talk about that, because speaking of dumb movies, I would like to get into that. We have 20 minutes left of this podcast, and I want to spend the rest of that 20 minutes tearing that movie apart.
You want to tear it apart? Why? Okay, you give me your major plot flaws in that film, because this is something that I can actually talk about.
Okay, cool. All right, so for
those who don't know, The Game Changers is a movie that was done and produced by an ex-MMA fighter, and basically it digs into supposedly the science behind.
I think you have to. Sorry, it was written and directed by an ex-MMA fighter.
Yeah.
But it was produced by a bunch of big name celebrities. James Cameron, obviously of Titanic and Avatar fame. His wife, Susie Amis Cameron. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Novak Djokovic. Who else? Lewis Hamilton. And a couple of other really, really big name people. So this is a very, very well produced documentary. It is beautiful to watch. It is very much like it obviously has a financial backing.
Yes, yeah.
To
it's well put together.
It's well put together.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful to watch. And then now you can go from there.
So they're basically breaking down and talking about the benefits of a plant-based diet versus a meat-eating diet, and something that or an omnivorous diet. A point that I thought was really funny that I thought of the other day after watching that movie was how careful I think they were to not use the word vegan or vegetarian in that film, and only to use plant-based, because I think it's really well done on their part to know that anyone that is a meat eater, as soon as they hear the word vegetarian or vegan, instantly gets on the back foot. Whereas you start using the word plant-based, people aren't as, oh, this is bullshit straight away, and they can listen in a little bit more deeply.
Yep.
But back to what the movie's about. Basically, they get in a whole bunch of athletes, they test a whole bunch of different things, they talk about the science behind eating plant-based versus omnivorous, so which is meat and plant, and talk about the effects it has on your health, athletic performance. They use a bunch of examples. It's very compelling the way that it's done, using very high-end athletes who swear by it, apparently, and also getting in...
So they choose like the
big
5 athletes
and,
that are vegan out of the thousands of athletes that aren't vegan.
Yes.
As their examples.
Yes.
And often athletes that didn't get to where they are being vegan, they just happen to be vegan right now. They weren't vegan their entire lives.
No, they weren't vegan their entire lives. No,
They didn't.
I agree.
You know, like Farris didn't make his first Olympics vegan, and what has he done since? Not really that much.
Yeah. He did break all his American records vegan, though.
Did he though?
Yeah.
What about that strongman that they say is like
Not
a world
that good a
record
strongman.
holder?
Yoke walk.
At the yoke walk and stuff. He's under 105. He's not even one of the best ever strongmen.
Yeah.
He's never competed at like world strongest man.
Yeah.
So like a lot of it is like hyperbole.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I think the benefits of diet are very much overemphasized in the documentary over just 1, your genetic potential, 2, the natural talent of the athletes that we're talking about, and then 3, I think a lot of the science in there is very like pick and choose.
I tend to disagree a little bit. I'm not going to stop. I'll preface that I'm not going to stop eating meat.
Yeah.
But I do disagree with you to the point of I can definitely see how the science would have pretty good backing behind eating plant-based.
Okay.
In the way that I do think that, if anything, society still seems to have this belief that they get majority of their energy from meat, which is just beyond stupid.
That's true.
So pretty much anything that we need for...
But like point out like I guess the first example he brings up in the movie is that the gladiators were vegetarian.
Have you read like the people trying to debunk his stuff and like picking at that? At the fact that he used that?
Not very much, but like I can only imagine that I've read the article that he references, which isn't a research study. It's an article. It's just a story. Someone was like, "Oh yeah, it's possible that a lot of these guys were, but they were fucking slaves. Gladiators had no free will. Why would you give slaves your prize meat?
Yeah,
they're in there to die.
Yeah.
Why would you use that as an example?
Yes. Yeah.
They're not your greatest athletes. They're people that are like. Have you even watched Gladiator? They did not look like they were in a good space.
That's true. That is very true. That is a good movie, though.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorite movies. It's
Is it?
definitely a lot better than
Troy.
It's better than Troy, and it's definitely better than
Braveheart. I don't know if I can agree with you there. I don't know. Anyway, back to the point. The biggest arguments are that animal proteins are the best protein you can get, which I tend to agree with. But one of the big things from the movie, that dragonfly is really bugging me, how it keeps doing that, is just the effect that going vegan for a little while or going plant-based for a little while can have on arteriosclerosis. I can't even pronounce it.
I'm gonna let you try.
Arteriosclerosis.
Yeah.
And which is like plaque build-up in the arteries, with obviously because a lot of the cholesterols and stuff that we get from meat are the main culprits for that sort of thing. So I think from an And it would make sense that then if you have wider pathways in the arteries for blood flow, that would improve performance as well.
Yeah, well, you know what else does that? Fasting.
Fasting, yeah.
You just not eat. I could say like an air diet does that.
Yeah, but where are you getting your carbohydrates from air?
Well, that's the thing. I think if anything that this movie is, truthful about, like fully truthful about, is that we need to eat more vegetables.
Yep.
Which is fair. And we probably just need to eat less food. Which just means eating... Like, I understand it. It's just like a lot of things seem to be half-truths in the movie.
Like what?
Like, what's another thing? What are some of the other studies that he... Well, a lot of the doctors in the movie are definitely...
Undereducated?
Not undereducated. Like, have a lot of vegan products in the market.
Yeah.
So there's a huge agenda there. And I'm not saying that, all movies and studies are funded somewhere. So like meat funds a whole bunch of things. The guy that was talking about the avocados and stuff, they're sponsored by House Avocado. So it's just little things like that grind my gears. When they talk about...
I think that's like, they talk about, as soon as you talk about, like in uni and stuff, the
ethics
when
of
you have to
research
take
funding?
the ethics of research funding and that sort of thing, and how people shouldn't be able to have a play when funding research, or when you go through and look at research, when you're doing your own research and you're looking at articles and looking at papers, looking at analysis reviews, whatever you're looking at, if that's funded by someone who stands to gain.
Yeah, but on the other end, like, to play my own devil's advocate, I think that's important, because who else is going to fund the studies other than the person who has a vested interest in that study?
Yes, correct.
Which is fair too, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the meat industry isn't going to fund a study to prove that a plant-based diet is better for you.
No, but if they do fund a study and the study finds the opposite, then like the study's still going to get published.
Is it?
Hopefully.
I don't think it would.
If it is, I don't know. Or it'll just be buried somewhere. It'll be published. It just won't be published in some big journal. Still be able to find it.
Do you go through many journals and stuff for work?
Not anymore.
No.
I used to when I was at uni and when I was studying a lot. Now I just listen to you. I wait for you to send me studies about hamstrings.
Yeah. Yeah. I did some studies. I was looking at some research yesterday for like intensity levels and fat oxidation.
Yeah.
We've gone really far away from uneducated opinions.
I don't care.
Don't care.
I am very uneducated. So people don't take what I say as gospel about this movie. This movie just rubbed me the wrong way.
Also, I feel like Andy has had planned arguments, and he's come in here with me with no planned rebuttals.
No, I don't have any planned arguments, but this is what I do. When I'm driving around in my car and I'm not listening to podcasts, I sit there and dwell on like
things that upset you.
Things that upset me. One being the Joker movie, two being this Game Changers movie.
I like it, and I liked it, but also I'm not someone who's necessarily super easily influenced by a movie, and I will go and I have gone through and had a look at some of the research just from having to do so from being at uni.
Yeah.
And I can see where the argument stands.
I can see
for a plant-based diet, and it is actually something that, even though I can see the bias in the movie, I can definitely see the bias in the movie. And one of the other things that we spoke about the other day was also just availability to get through to get that type of food all the time. Especially if you're an elite level athlete who's traveling and that sort of thing, being plant-based and still getting in enough food is going to be an issue. How feasible it is going to be an issue. I've tried to increase the amount of like vegetables and stuff that I eat by double, triple before, like just to try and get more calories in through that rather than through protein, because protein is eventually becomes a useless calorie. And also just the expense of it, the expense of buying. If I can go and buy a sweet potato, 300 grams of beans and a steak, that's going to cost me $21, or I can go and buy half a steak
10 bags of spinach,
and all of a sudden it's going to cost me $50.
Yeah.
So from a feasibility point of view, I definitely see the issue with it. But in saying that, I would be tempted, and I am tempted to try it for a week or two just to see my own personal feeling, because I think at the end of the day, your own anecdote is probably all that really matters anyway. Yep. And if you're someone that can go through and you feel better on a plant-based diet, then all power to you. Just don't call it vegan.
I agree.
Because that'll shit me.
I very much agree with what you're saying. And I guess that's another big problem with the athletes that they brought on. They brought on as like hard facts, but every single one of them was anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right?
The problem with anecdotal evidence is it's so powerful when it comes from someone with standing like that. But it's like anything. Everything is going to be individualized. Everything's going to rub someone up differently. That's why it's only really in its infant stages, but there's like genetic profile testing to see where your ancestry came from thousands of years ago, because they believe that your genetics will rub up better with particular types of foods that your ancestors would have been susceptible to eating when they were younger.
Was that like metabolic typing?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can do gene profiles and that sort of thing for what sort of foods are going to operate better for you. And some people like...
So what does yours show up? Schnitzel and beer?
Schnitzel and beer. Yeah. It would probably. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm from, to be honest. Like, depending on where someone's from,
So what's mine going to be? Rice and curry?
Rice and curry. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I do well on rice and curry.
Yeah, you probably do really well on rice.
No, the curry's a must as well.
A must as well? Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. It's only infant stages, but it's just new. It's new with like blood profiles and that sort of thing. As to what is going to affect different people better and worse.
I think I'd love for people that listen to this to watch the documentary and talk to us about it. I'd love to hear what other people got out of it.
I would also like to go back and do a little bit more educating.
I would also like to actually do some research. I probably should have brought it up today. But I'm pretty sure James Cameron's wife owns a massive pea protein company as well. So there's some huge...
Might want to fact check that one before we put it out there.
Nah, I'm happy with having an uneducated opinion about it.
That's fair enough. I don't think that's an opinion though.
I have an opinion that... How is this tree ringing?
I don't know. Do you think the woman, the cyclist that they used, was she actually a top level athlete?
I don't know if all of those guys were even like super high level athletes. Like the only person I knew was Kendrick Farris, and that's only because I've, followed his career since I started weightlifting, and he hasn't done much really since.
It's like anything. There's pros and cons.
Yeah.
I would argue that from a non-athletic standpoint.
Can you get that strong without
protein?
Because I've trained a bunch of
you gotta get protein from elsewhere,
vegans, and one thing I've found is that they don't eat healthy enough, because I think it's not feasible to eat healthy enough and get the calories in to make progress in a strength sport, and unless you're like super disciplined, which I feel like a lot of, like, I'm going to make a broad generalization, but a lot of the vegetarians and vegans that I know are not, and they just don't make progress.
Yeah. Protein's one of those things that's hard to get in without meat, but it is doable. There's protein in plants. There is protein there. You just got to find it. Yeah, got to go looking.
I get it.
There is protein there, but you're right. It is harder to get. But the other thing that I think people need to realize when being overly critical is with how much protein I think the amount of protein that people think they need to eat is very different to the amount of protein that they actually need to eat.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You do not need to have 300 grams of steak in a meal.
No, like even when,
You can.
I got a dietitian to do some work for me a little while ago for my training, and like I was and then that caused me to do a little bit of research myself. I was astounded at the small amounts of meat that she was getting me to eat.
Yeah.
Not realizing. So I think it's any more than for a guy of my size, being 90 plus kilos, any more than about 40 grams of protein in a sitting is no longer being metabolized properly, and it's just going to be oxidized for energy, so it's pretty useless.
Yeah. So you'd be better off just having extra carbohydrates. Or
Having extra carbs.
something that would be easier for your body to process.
Yep.
And go through. Yeah, I get that.
More than 200 grams of protein a day is useless.
Yep, that's fair. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think people need to have a lot more vegetables in their diet. I have a lot of lentils and beans and that stuff because that's what I was raised on. But I just don't like a very biased documentary like this.
That's
It's like
fair.
if someone came up with a documentary on the carnivore diet, I'd be like, they're probably right.
Yeah.
We'll end there.
Yeah. It's very hard to find. I'll just close by saying it is very hard to find a documentary that won't have some level of bias,
Yeah, that's fair.
because it needs to be funded from somewhere, and like you said, no one's going to fund something that doesn't somehow
Confirm their bias.
confirm their bias.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, fair
It's
enough.
even like even if you go to something that we've got a little bit of time. Even if we go to something that everyone, I think almost anyone who's listening to this podcast can agree on, and that is like nature conservation. Documentaries about nature conservation are run by nature conservation companies
Yeah,
or people with heavy hand in that setting.
yeah. Yeah, the problem is I agree with everything you said. It's just
Rubbed you up the wrong way.
rubbed me up the wrong way. It's like
That's
I've
fair.
got a pole up my ass or something.
A chip on your shoulder, maybe.
Maybe.
Fair enough. Alrighty, we'll close it there. Thanks for listening, guys. Episode 8 of the Uneducated Opinions. I'm Steve. You can find me on Instagram at SteveNorman250. You can find Andy at Train with Andy on Instagram. You can find us at the Uneducated Opinions. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you get notified when we put up a new episode. If you have anything particularly about this movie, then...
App closed.
Oh no. Oh, my device is overheating. Goodbye.